whenever I was a kid, my dad would work the night shift. There were a few times whenever he would be awake, like we would have an overlap. I would get back from school and he'd like be awake but didn't have to go to work yet, or like it would be a weekend and he would be awake. But it was his only time to fish, and so it was kind of one of those, like, if I wanted to hang out with my dad, I was going fishing. I grew up not in a Christian home, or at least I wouldn't call it a Christian home. I think we were culturally Christians, as far as we said we were, if we had to check a box and stuff like that, and we showed up for church on Mother's Day and things like that. I didn't really see Christ moving or my parents with a relationship with God at all. In high school, I got kind of involved in just partying and that kind of stuff, and just like living in my flesh and just living in sin. And then I went off to college, and those kind of habits of sin stayed with me. And now that I was out of the home, I was able to get more heavily involved in them and kind of go down a steeper path of what the partying scene looked like and things like that. And I had a group of friends who that's what we did, and those were the only friends I had. Towards the end of my first semester of college, I started to kind of feel very alone and started to feel if we weren't gonna party, then no one wanted to hang out with me. So I started to get really depressed and just, felt very lonely, probably the loneliest I've ever been. And I remember at one point, and this kind of what sparked everything was, I went to the Methodist Center that was right next to my dorm, and they did a free Tuesday spaghetti lunch. And it was elders from the Methodist Church there in Denton made spaghetti, and the college kids ate. And I went in there, and there was no one except for this group of college kids over in the corner, and me. And I come in, I grab my spaghetti, and I'm feeling down in the dumps, and I have my hood on, and I give all of my body language says leave me alone. And I sit in the back corner of this of this little cafeteria or eating area that they have there, and one of the guys very reluctantly, but knows he has to come talk to me, and has to try and bridge that gap of my nonverbals and stuff like that. And so he approaches me and tries to talk to me and tries to strike up a conversation. I'm very short with him, and I kind of give him the clues that cues that I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear what he has to say, and I just want to feel sorry for myself. And I was kind of a jerk. I wasn't kind of a jerk. I was a jerk. I'm just gonna say that. And and so he kind of pushes a little bit more, and he kind of asks me some more questions just about well, how do you feel about that, and how's your life going? Kind of not really prying, but just kind of he didn't give up, and just kind of kept asking me questions. And he didn't spew any sort of oh, well, this kind of stuff. He just he didn't really try to evangelize. I think he just heard me. And I think having someone just hear me, and having someone just look at me and just empathize with me in that moment was really impactful. And so I kind of just exploded on him. I unloaded everything, I kind of just let him have it. It was my friends don't want to hang out with me unless we're sinning, and this is where we are, and this is what my life is, is I go to class, and then I have to deal with these people who don't really want to be my friends. They don't care about me on any level. And so I kind of just throw that all at him, and it throws him off his game, because he's just a college kid too. Looking back on it, he's just a college kid. And but he just looked at me, and he's man, I don't know, but maybe this Jesus guy is an answer. And that was it, and I left that conversation oh, maybe this Jesus guy is an answer, kind of very what a cop out, I guess. For some reason, what he had said kind of stuck with me. What if this Jesus guy is the answer? That kind of started to move, and I started to Google things and just read more about what Jesus had done, and just kind of what the gospel was, as far as Jesus taking on our sins on the cross and redeeming us and reconciling us back to himself. yeah, I slowly started to believe and realized I had to get out of Denton and had to get out of that area and away from those friends. So I transferred down to Texas State in San Marcos and ran into some people that were part of Cru, which is Campus Crusade for Christ, and those guys kind of grabbed me and very quickly put me like on a fast track of what discipleship looked like and started growing me in the faith and understanding. You know, I was coming from a school where I was very alone and very in sin, and to go to Texas State and kind of cut that part out of my life and get to be this new creation was awesome, you know. But I think a huge piece of that and why I kind of really pushed into those guys and just like I just want to spend all my time with these guys. One was that they pursued me and like they wanted relationship with me and they wanted me to know Jesus, and they really just started to like kind of love me in what I was in, you know. And I was able to. I remember being terrified of like confessing just of my past life, just telling them this stuff. It was like, the church is never gonna take me. These Cru guys are never gonna want to hang out with me. I'm this broken thing, and you know, confessing all that stuff. And so many of them were like, "Oh, dude, me too," or "Oh, you know, this is where I'm coming from," and things like that. And yeah, seeing just how much grace they were willing to give me and not hold any of that against me and just continue to push in. And there were moments whenever I wanted my space and wanted to still continue to be at arm's distance, and those guys to continue to pursue me. And whenever I didn't like talk to them in like 2 days, they're like, "Hey, where are you at? Like we want to hang out with you. We want to have a relationship with you or have friendship," you know. And I think that's where I really like experienced like true friendship, was like these guys like knew the baggage that I had and knew the crap that I had been in, and continued to just like dive into it and continue to like want to be with me, and didn't view me as like damaged goods. Now, you know, it's like I have a 6-year-old, she's about to be 7, and a 5-year-old, and a wife, and you know, I'm doing what I can as far as, you know, discipling my kids. We spend time just talking about characteristics of God and who He is, you know, so that you know, as they get older, that they can lean onto those characteristics and they can lean onto their faith themselves, you know. And we spend time in prayer together. We spend time in community with other believers, which I feel like is super powerful, because I think sometimes seeing your family or seeing mom and dad, you know, be Christians, like, oh, these are just family habits. But I think whenever we're hanging out with other family members or hanging out with other families that are also believers, is this very powerful thing for my kids to be able to see other Christian men and other Christian families interacting, loving their children, but also continuing to pursue their faith. And that's really what I want, is that for my kids to pursue their own faith.